comment section of this video. When I get done with it, I'm gonna start grabbing a bunch of conversations with witnesses that are already downloaded to YouTube and ready to listen to. You can listen to dozens of witnesses saying something that's highly illegal. Now, while the instructions for me were very clear, and I did state very clearly what my instructions were. Number one, from the attorneys, record everything, write everything down. I had a ledger and I did write everything down. It did make it a little bit easier to remember everything. If there was stuff that I couldn't remember, a time or a date, I could go to my ledger. Now, what is it in these recordings that's so important? Well, for starters, if you look at the court paperwork, you get to look at who said what and what they were allowed to do. Even my own public pretenders did everything that they could to keep evidence and witnesses out of court. Now, there's something that police will tell you if they don't like you or they just don't want to do their job and you don't actually matter, as in you don't have the money to sue them and they know it, they just ignore you outright. When it comes to witnesses, if there's a bunch of witnesses, like, for example, when Mawson came at me with that pipe, there was a bunch of witnesses. Of course, Scott Brown was busy trying to prime them by claiming that I was a pedophile. Well, that fucking sucks. You shouldn't go running around calling people sex offenders, especially when they're not. I got my arrest record. It shows I have never been arrested for any such thing. Never been charged with any such thing, let alone convicted. Now then there's police officers, law enforcement working together across jurisdictional lines. And then when you have to try to turn it in, they say, oh, we can't look at other agencies. We can't talk to other agencies. Excuse me, you have been coordinating with other agencies to try to frame me for shit I didn't do. You've been table talking with these other agencies, and there is evidence of it. So I got 3 notices of dismissal. I don't know how many of you have ever been to prison. I want you to imagine that you had to try to turn in physical assaults, threats against your life, threats against your family's lives. And one of those people that you have to turn in is Sheriff Scott DaCosta. One of those people is his secretary, Leslie Snell. And one of those people is a registered sex offender named Robert Franklin Warnick. You also got a police officer, former police officer from Colorado, who isn't allowed to be a police officer, named William Barr, that you have to try to turn in. All of this over abuse due to the Natalie Bollinger situation and the police's absolute refusal to do their job. Public pretenders' absolute refusal to do their job. And anything that they had to say to actual witnesses, people who were actually involved, people who actually saw these things, well, they just lie to them and say things like, you can't make a report for someone else. That's literally not possible. The only way that you could make a report for someone else would be to sign your signature. Well, no. That right there is a crime, isn't it? Forgery. But the thing is that somebody who's disabled is allowed to have somebody help them with the paperwork. They're allowed to have a friend or family member present for any and all questioning, and by law are required to have it, especially in cases of, well, for example, murder. The fact is that the police in Natalie Bollinger's case knew that even if I told them outright that I'm foregoing my right to have somebody there due to expediency, it's still against the law for them to interview me. It's still against the law for them to do so without somebody there. Now, the reason that I said those things, and I absolutely did, I said, I'm foregoing that because although Kayla Trujillo should have been in that room with me, they had made it blatant and obvious that they weren't going to allow that. They wanted to make sure that they had control of the evidence and that they had control of the witnesses. And, well, since Kayla Trujillo wasn't in the room with me, she can't verify any of the things that were said. Also, because she was not in the room with me to verify the things that I said were true, all the cops had to do was take out every bit of the video that shows that I told the truth and just give you 17 minutes of basically the parts they think make me look crazy. Unfortunately for them, I'm not a fucking idiot. And even in those parts of the video, it shows that I told the truth. It shows that I was trying to help get Natalie safe. See, they had it written down, KIA, Natalie Bollinger, or so, not KIA, DOA, Natalie Bollinger, 9mm. And when I asked about it, the detective tried claiming that there was a body. They didn't think it was Natalie, but they were still treating Natalie as a missing persons case. They knew it was her. By Peterson's own admission in the interviews afterwards, they knew it was her. They knew it was Natalie who was dead. I knew that it was a 9mm that she was shot with, very specifically because I can read upside down. I'm on one side of the table. Detective Peterson is on the other side of the table with his file open. It's upside right for him. Now, anything that the Bollingers could try to twist into something horrible against them and try to get people up in arms and trying to destroy my evidence on Facebook, cutting off my ability to get a hold of my friends and family, forcing me into social isolation further. After I hurt my back, Facebook was the only way I had to get a hold of people because I could not walk to go see them anymore. I could not travel to see them anymore. I couldn't make my rounds in the morning to go pick up all the blankets that people were leaving that I had given them the night before, or go wake them up before the police give them a ticket for using that damn blanket. I couldn't do those things anymore. And as a result, people just forgot I existed, out of sight, out of mind. It didn't matter how much I had done for them. Because I couldn't do more, I didn't matter anymore. And every single one of my friends treated me that way. It was also around that time that I realized that none of my friends knew anything about me. They knew I was nice to them. They knew I'd given the shirt off my back. They knew that I had given the shirt off of my back more than once. They knew I didn't do drugs. Everybody knew I smoked pot. I didn't hide that. It was Boulder, Colorado. It was legal. And of course, if I was feeling lazy, I admit that I would purchase my marijuanas from a woman named Janine Barrett. I don't hide that either. I mean, shit, she got busted for selling pot, for Christ's sake. It's not like she's able to hide it. And now that she's dead, obviously she can't hide it. And these recordings that I have with many witnesses, saying that they tried to turn it into the police and the police said, well, you can't make a report for someone else. No, it's not making a report for someone else. It is called a witness statement. The police also wanted to claim that people who are there for these situations, people who I had reached out to for help, people who knew that the narrative that was being sold was absolutely 100% untrue, and the police weren't going to listen to them. And these people weren't going to follow instructions to turn it in with me, and they weren't going to follow the instructions to record it. What's the difference between evidence and hearsay? If it's recorded, it's not hearsay, it's evidence. If you threaten to kill somebody, there's a lot of people that want to automatically start up with the argument of what the police here are going to say. No, the police here are breaking the goddamn law. I don't need to hear what the police are going to tell you. I've already heard it 100 times from 100 other people. I know the cops here don't fucking do their jobs. Everybody here knows the cops don't do their jobs. The rate of property crime and violence here in Tillamook, Oregon is among the highest in the country. We have more property damage and physical violence in a town of 5,000 people. We have more violence than some large cities. Now, of course, a major city like Denver, yeah, a town of 5,000 like this isn't going to break that. But holy shit. Tillamook, Oregon, town of 5,000. Boulder, Colorado, over 200,000. Tillamook, Oregon is still worse. Holy shit. Now, police want to walk around like Timothy Sadler did when he tried to frame me for, well, they were trying to claim that I sprayed a man in the face 5 times. You can look at the fucking pictures. There is no anything on his fucking face. There's some tiny speckles on his glasses. You can see in the videos, he walks across the road, no problem. Turns back to threaten me again, no problem. Turns around and is able to walk himself to the other side of the street, no problem. No swerving, no weaving, no bobbing, no nothing. When he gets over the curb and decides he's going to set that thing next to the pipe that he was swinging at my head, he's going to set it against the building. He sets it there, no problem. He can see just fine. He pulls out his phone and points it at me and fucking dials a number and can see just fine. Something strange about that. Then, of course, they were trying to insinuate that I had taken bear mace and chased the man down and sprayed him in the face 5 times. You can see in the video, I literally never got off of my knees. And Timothy Sadler wanted to go asking people, just walking around asking people if they wanted to be victims. Do you want to be a victim? Do you want to be a victim? Holy shit. Are you fucking kidding me? But what do you expect out of a police officer I'd try to turn in repeatedly? Because no matter how much physical assaults or property damage were committed against me, he showed that he was absolutely not going to investigate a goddamn thing. And what do you expect? I had to deal with that stalker, Molly, when I first got to town. And then she wanted to claim that I had killed a little girl in Colorado to these cops. And then these cops wanted to run around telling homeless people I was wanted for murder in Colorado, that I had killed a little girl in Colorado. No, that's absolutely not the fucking case. Kind of like the rumor in Colorado while Natalie was still alive is that I had raped 2 little girls in Virginia, that I had molested 2 underage girls in Virginia, that I had threatened to kill 2 little girls and their family. Are you fucking insane? Are you insane? Meanwhile, there's a phone, well, several phones, full of evidence of the correspondence between myself and Natalie Bollinger when I was in Virginia. And those cops, sorry, just one cop, took me to the hospital. He didn't take me to a mental hospital in Virginia Beach. He took me to an actual hospital because I was fucking dehydrated. And guess what? They put 2 friggin' bags of saline solution in me. 2 bags. Yeah, that's pretty fucking dehydrated. If they're putting 2 bags of that crap in you. Well, I was talking to their therapist there. Nurse kept coming in and squeezing the bag every so often. And she came in and changed it at one point. Came in every so often to squeeze the bag again. I don't know how all that works or what it is that she was checking on, but she had her little clipboard and everything. Now, we've got these conversations with people who claim that they tried calling the police. Now, I have no problems believing that they called the police because the things that they were telling me that police told them, mind you, these are not the things that they told the Bollingers. You know, there's the, oh, you don't like the guy? Do you want to be a victim? Oh, you've got actual evidence? Well, you can't make a report for someone else. You're a witness? You can't make a report for someone else. It's not possible to make a report for someone else. Making a witness statement, that's what you're doing. When they change the words, it's kind of like when they physically torture you to try to get you to move so that they can say that you were struggling, that you were resisting. Like when they feel around on your neck and feel around underneath your armpit and on your pectoral muscle or behind your knee, grabbing a hold of the tendons. Or they try to get their legs squished onto that, if at all possible. Try to hyperextend portions of your body. And then, of course, because they got a whole bunch of dog pile in there, it prevents anybody from really seeing what they're doing. And you'll get to hear over and over again the police just kept on telling people, according to their statements, the police kept on telling them when they tried to turn in the threats against my life in these Natalie Bollinger groups and who it was that was threatening my life, they were told that the police couldn't investigate anything on Facebook or that things from Facebook were not admissible in court or that they couldn't make a statement for someone else. Or those officers refused to give them an address or an email address or anything that they could actually send the evidence to. And there's recording after recording of these people claiming that to me. Now, I have the evidence that they did claim those things to me. Do they have the evidence that they actually made that effort? That's what I'm asking them for. The reason that they were so easy to railroad, so easy to talk over, is because they didn't know what the hell was going on. They didn't know what they were stepping into. There's the appropriate way when a victim comes to you because they're being harmed. And then there's the way that the police and my so-called friends wanted to do it. Now, I have no problems believing that these people did talk to the police because they had the same experiences. So, no, I don't have a problem believing those people. But I don't believe those people because they have no proof. They have no proof due to their own fault, their own inability to listen, their own assumptions. Now, that piece of paper that Tamara gave me from Region 1, and well, she gave it to me in Chapel, Nebraska, and then we went to Sydney, which is where my appointments were. But that piece of paper tells you what to look out for. Like when the jurisdiction thing, for example, if you're being stalked across multiple jurisdictions, like I was, when they say, oh, well, that's out of our jurisdiction, it's actually not. If a crime is being committed in your jurisdiction or against somebody in your jurisdiction, your job is at least to make sure that it is sent to the right agency. You have to contact the right agency, and the police were not going to contact the FBI and say, oh, there's a whole bunch of people who are harming this innocent man who's trying to tell on us. No, they're not going to do that. After they fucked up and decided my guilt from the start before Natalie was killed. Didn't want to look at evidence, just wanted to assume. And then, of course, there's friends like what Natalie was for a short time and what my other friends are. Natalie, when I explained that my back was fucked and I couldn't walk more than a block, she gave me a ride to storage so I could take that shit out of my backpack. She didn't give me a ride off into the country to fuck. It's not like I had to force her at gunpoint to give me a ride out to storage. And with my back as fucked up as it is, yeah, Natalie could have beaten me up at will. No problem. Over and over again, my own public pretenders did everything that they could to not contact witnesses, to not get the information, to not hear my story, let alone attempt to get the actual evidence. This is because although I am a disabled and vulnerable adult, my rights as a disabled and vulnerable adult have been completely trampled over my entire life, not just the last 10 years, but my entire life. I have not been treated like a human being because I'm different. You say it's okay for a black person to be different. They can't help the color of their skin. It's okay for somebody with Down syndrome to be different. They can't help their genetics. But then when it comes to somebody who has Tourette syndrome or Asperger's, you treat us like we're retards. You treat us like we're stupid. Now, when the police were saying that it's not illegal for people to threaten to kill me, you can go ahead and argue all you want. No, it's not legal for people to get a hold of me to tell me that they're going to dismember my niece and send me pictures of their cock in her open gutted rib cage if I don't pretend to be a pedophile. No, that's not fucking legal. That's making terroristic threats. I'm going to tell you something about Rick Martindale. This is the father-in-law of former Denver police officer, or former Denver Sheriff's Department Deputy William Barr. His father-in-law, Jessica Martindale, or Jessica Barr now, her father's name is Richard Martindale. Well, I had some issues with a former sheriff in Chapel, Nebraska. His name was Jeff Ortiz. He went by Taco. And this guy was an asshole. Now, Rick Martindale, despite the fact that I did not threaten to chop off anybody's head, wanted to go claim that I was threatening to chop off the sheriff's head. That's just fucking stupid. At the time, I was having to listen to a guy named Chris Stegeman talk about things like nothing makes a statement like a severed head. Nothing makes a statement like a severed head. And of course, Jeff Ortiz was being a fucking dickhead to me about people being a dickhead to me in town. People treat me like shit. People telling me, oh, you look like a child molester. You look like a rapist. Oh, you're probably going to be a serial killer one day. I've still never killed anybody. But in Chapel, Nebraska, you're not allowed to be different. Realistically, you're not allowed to be different anywhere. While it is a hate crime to target a disabled person the way that these people have targeted me, a hate crime. When they want to assault you and then call you mentally ill and claim that it never happened, that's definitely more than just a hate crime. That's a lot of crimes all rolled up into one. And we got Rose M. Kelly, who, well, you believe anything that she says because she's Natalie's mom. You believe anything that Natalie says because she was young and pretty. You'll believe anything that Alicia says because she's young and pretty. You will make excuses over and over and over again for their drug use, for their alcohol use, for their abandonment, for their cruelty. You will make every excuse why those things are okay. You will make every excuse why it is okay for these people to threaten to kill me and my family. You will make every excuse not to look at evidence. This goes for my friends. This goes for my family. This goes for my attorneys. This goes for the police. This goes for the courts. This goes for these Natalie Bollinger groups. And then, of course, I get help from people that just don't show up. They're no-call, no-shows, always. I spent $40 yesterday to pay somebody who has let me know that he has drug addiction problems. I spent $40 yesterday so that he could carry my stuff for me, because I can't carry it because of a disability that is well documented and y'all seem to want to pretend doesn't exist. And police officers have repeatedly, when I've tried to turn in those police officers, have tried to have hospitals get me misdiagnosed. I've already got the documentation. Rather than working with my disabilities, these people exploited them. They want to pretend that OCD, that's obsessive compulsive disorder, means that I'm obsessed with Natalie Bollinger. That's not the case. I spoke up. Now, some of the advice that I was given is, you know what? If the police won't listen to you, or they're telling you to do things that are illegal, like telling you to contact Natalie Bollinger and try to settle it out of court, call her up and tell you how it makes you feel. I went to social media and I spoke up about the abuse. And while I was typing the nice stuff that these people want to pretend is me being infatuated with Natalie, no, that was me speaking out about how people were harming me, about how I had no ill intention at any point, how I wasn't interested in hurting anybody. But as time went on, and people like Tim Beeson were relentless with their fucking harassment, and the rumors got worse, more outlandish, more crazy, because it's not a rumor that's being investigated, and it's also not something that's being shared among sober people. This is a bunch of goddamn junkies who are twisting whatever they fucking hear into whatever they want to believe, much as the police did. Now, the police will call it pain compliance and pretend it's necessary. In reality, what it is physical and psychological torture. The first thing that the police did when I went to them to try to turn in abuse was betray my trust, talk over me, treat me like I'm retarded, lie to me, tell me that these things aren't even illegal. It's not illegal for these people to threaten my life. I bet you it is. It's not illegal for these people to destroy your property. I bet you it is. When I was telling the police about the damage to my property, both before and after Natalie's death, I got talked in circles. When the cops damaged my vehicle, I mean, I got a bad back. I'm lucky that I had this Honda Civic that had a hatch that worked. And when my car got stuck in the road and they were claiming that my friends were going to look out for my vehicle and I could get it when I got out of the hospital, turned out that it had been broken further and impounded. That rear hatch no longer opened and closed, and I had to try to turn that in. And the lady on the phone just kept on playing stupid. I was stating very clearly, your officers broke my car and lied to me repeatedly. Oh, somebody broke your car, so you need to talk to an officer? No, that's not what I just said. Matter of fact, I was in that argument with that stupid lady at the police department in Chesapeake, Virginia, when I got a phone call and I answered it. It was Alicia Bollinger's phone that I was being called from. And I answered it, and the person on the other end said, "Hey, Sean, it's Natalie. I love you, but my family's scared of you. So don't contact me again, or don't talk to us again." And that should have been the end of it. There never should have been any further contact from Natalie Bollinger or her, well, for certainly her family. They never should have spread rumors. They never should have pretended that I threatened to kill them and their family in Virginia. They never should have pretended that I stalked them in Virginia. And they didn't stop to think about the consequences for others. Now, obviously, with Maddie Boa planning the trip to Virginia with us, Maddie Boa wasn't going to believe for one fucking moment that I had stalked Natalie and Alicia. That's why Natalie and Alicia decided to lie and claim that I threatened to kill their fucking family. Now, the evidence that was on those phones didn't matter because rather than looking at the evidence, that officer took me to the hospital. I wasn't allowed to have my phone. I had to talk to that therapist, and that officer got to tell the nurses and the other people that I needed to talk to whatever fucking story he wanted to tell them. No evidence whatsoever. But the fact is that it wasn't a mental hospital, and I hadn't done anything wrong. So, of course, Natalie's mother wants to paint this story about how I'd done some big embellishment. She tried to make it like I was outside of her house throwing a fucking party with a bunch of fucking wild animals surrounding her house and waving, embellishing. Like, are you fucking crazy? This isn't reality. This is the schizophrenic delusions of a fucking addict. What Rose M. Kelly and her friends did. Like Derek Apodaca, for example, with the physical assaults, trying to pretend that I was a pedophile. Call me a chimo. And of course, I did collect evidence of that. People on the streets don't want to talk to the police because the police ain't your friends. And we get to see example after example of that. So many people wanting to make the excuse that they're afraid to come forward because they're a felon. Well, guess what? Ted Bollinger's a fucking felon too. So is Alicia Bollinger. Same thing with Natalie Bollinger. Same thing with Maddie fucking Boa. Now, why is it that all of those girls got slaps on the fucking wrist? Because of looks. You're more likely to believe somebody who is young and pretty. You are more likely to believe somebody who has a pretty smile with straight teeth. You are more likely to believe somebody just because they're female. But whether you believe them or not, the fact is there are two sides to it. And when you go out of your way to ignore somebody's side completely, you have done wrong. When you go out of your way to take it upon yourself to be vigilantes, when you take it upon yourself to have a witch hunt, and many people had even typed on these Natalie Bollinger groups, including Tim Beeson, that they're down for a witch hunt. Now, what did these sites that are supposedly telling the Natalie Bollinger story doing with stuff like that? Oh, well, they will bleep out all of the names and everything that's in it, try to pull out just little bits and pieces out of context, and they know that they're doing this. The villain's crime knew exactly what they were doing. They wanted to try to claim and insinuate that any and all evidence that came from me was not verified. No, it actually was. It was verified by Danica Garner. It was verified by police officers. I even had to get deputies here at the jail to verify evidence of the Natalie Bollinger situation. Evidence that shows that I am not schizophrenic or delusional, and proves that in court, while they were trying to pretend that stuff, that it was specifically to hide their fuck-ups. Now let's talk about the help that I get. I'm going to show you. Now, Claire Jordan claimed that she understood when I turn in one of these crimes to her, we're supposed to turn it in right away. So then we're going to show you what that actually ends up looking like. This is just from one phone, mind you. Now, I let Brian Wilgus touch my phone yesterday, and I don't know what he fucked up with this, but I had to take it from him and show him myself because he was having a lot of issues. He couldn't tell the difference between what was a screenshot and what was actually reading the thing. So I had to, I don't know if he fucked up anything or not. If he did, it wasn't on purpose. But so this is it, right? I'm supposed to get a hold of this person, Claire Jordan, right? Now let's see when the first day is on there, July 7th, 2023. Now let's scroll up through it. I kept on sending her evidence of this stuff right after it happened. People threatening to kill me. People threatening to kill my friends and family. The stalking, the fucking protection order, all of that. Like there's right here, this is my instructions on how to turn this stuff in from the hospital here in Tillamook. I mean, I can keep on scrolling up for fucking days. Yep, we're still scrolling up, still scrolling up, still scrolling up, still scrolling up, still scrolling up. Until the day that I got arrested when I called her up because of the attempt by Mossam Vajan to bash me in the fucking head with a goddamn pipe. But instead, she wanted to type a bunch of very disrespectful, mean shit. This is the help that men get. This is why you don't help women. Do not help women. They are not going to reciprocate. They do not give a fuck. All she did ever was make it about her. Oh, poor her, poor her, poor her. No, fuck that. See, I got arrested on May 19th, 2024. How much later is that? May 19th, 2024. And this started July 7th? When I had to flee the abuse here in Tillamook. I gave a ride to Astoria to a woman who was here checking out the fireworks. But also, there's the fact that I did send the evidence. This is one from Whitney. This is Andrew Wolnez's daughter. She typed, "He will never stop. That's the bad thing about Andrew. Once he's locked in, it's hard for him to stop. He did this to my little brother and his mom. His mom's also getting a restraining order against him, along with other of the moms, including mine. He called my mom after hearing about us talking and cussed her out. Here's one of the pages of the instructions that I was given at the hospital. Not that anybody other than me ever has made a single actual effort to try what's on there. Here, this one's from Caitlin Thompson. She's one of the witnesses to Andrew Wolnez breaking the protection order, and she wrote a written statement. And what do I get told from police officers when I go to them with written statements like this, whether it's got your phone number or email address or not? They say, well, how do we know you didn't write that? Literally any excuse not to do their jobs. Literally any excuse to look the other way. They like to use pedophiles to harass me. The reason that they like to use pedophiles to harass me is because I'm not allowed to do anything. If these pedophiles fuck with me and fuck with me and fuck with me, even if they're assaulting me, if I try to turn it in, like you can take a look at the situation with Deputy Holloway. They used Robert Franklin Warnick as their pedophile. He threatened to kill me, threatened to harm my family, physically assaulted me, and no matter what, they weren't going to investigate it. They did not care. It didn't matter that I had actual evidence because this goddamn pedophile wanted to lie and pretend he was being stalked. No, I'm not interested in stalking pedophiles. I'm not the one who walked out into the street to fucking threaten to kill somebody. Robert Franklin Warnick is. But the police aren't going to investigate any crimes committed against me because they committed fucking felonies against me. They committed a lot of crimes before Natalie was killed by refusing to do their job, by refusing to investigate, by giving me bad legal advice. And when I ask them what the legal procedure is for turning these things in, they tell me I can't give legal advice. Are you sure about that? Then, of course, I was sent to mental health as an attorney. Yeah, mental health are the people who are supposed to do something when you're a disabled person who's being abused. Well, obviously not, because I'm having to take legal advice from mental health professionals who want to later say, oh, I can't give legal advice. No, I'm asking you who I have to turn you into legally if you're breaking the law. Who do I need to turn it into? Oh, well, I can't give you legal advice. Well, see, that's exactly the problem with being forced to go to somebody who fucked up to turn them into themselves. It's the exact same problem that you got when you tell your kid, hey, if somebody's bullying you at school, tell your bully how it makes you feel. Are you fucking kidding me? Here's what bullies are. They're goddamn stalkers. That's what they are. So when your kid's being fucking stalked at school, you're going to tell him to talk nicely to these fucking pieces of shit? Fuck no. Then those pieces of shit go out and pretend that they're the ones being stalked. That's fucking insane. All because you as a parent are fucking mentally goddamn retarded like Rose M. Kelly. Like if you are shitty enough to your kids and blame them enough because you're an alcoholic and you chose abusive men over your children, that somehow destroying the life of an innocent man over your paranoid bullshit is somehow going to fix that. Rose M. Kelly is doing the same exact thing that Robert Franklin Warnick is doing and the same exact thing that Andrew Wolnez is doing. Slandering the fuck out of my name and trying to play victim after the fact. Preying on a reputation that is not mine. I had a very good reputation in Boulder, Colorado before all of this shit. I didn't have any issues with women thinking that I was in love with them because I just pretended they were all lesbians. That's not a joke. It was my belief that if I pretended that all women were lesbians when we had conversations, as in they're never going to be interested in me and they're fine with me not being interested in them. And that's how I approached all of my conversations. Now, there's also the paperwork that I was given, and I do want to show this to you. This one right here. See this? This is Scott Brown. This is the paperwork I was given for Scott Brown. This right here, the guy who wanted to yell that I had killed a little girl in Colorado. The guy who wanted to throw rocks at me and tell people who were giving me money when I was panhandling that I was a child molester and killed a little girl in Colorado. I didn't find out his name until I got this here paperwork. Yeah, and he lied repeatedly in court too. He also claimed that when he screamed at me the day that Mossam came at me with the pipe, he was screaming that I killed a little girl. He claimed that everyone there that day was talking about it. Really, because at that point, TFCC and the sheriff's department were still trying to claim that that was a delusion. They still continue to pretend that that's a delusion. Despite all of my paperwork from before the Natalie situation, showing that I was not schizophrenic or delusional, that I did have Tourette syndrome and still do, that I do in fact and indeed have Asperger's, that the evidence of the threats, harassment, and intimidation does in fact and indeed exist, and these are not delusions, and you will get to hear that in many of the conversations as well, that these are not delusions. You'll get to hear from Brandon Ratner answering questions such as, is that a delusion or did it happen? You'll get to hear the same thing with Carl Rogers. You'll get to hear the same thing with Aaron Cockerham. You get to hear the same thing with Dan Faber. Did it happen or was it a delusion? Overwhelmingly, it turns out that these things did happen. That Brandon Ratner was able to verify I told the truth. But he didn't do so when he should have. Instead, I had to record him over a year after when if he had been a good person, would have made an actual effort to come forward about what he knew instead of chasing pussy. You don't like me saying it that way? Of course, then you guys want to pretend that because I was friends with a grown adult, because I did outreach with the homeless in Boulder, Colorado. That includes drug addicts. That includes alcoholics. That includes people with PTSD. That includes people who are schizophrenic. That includes people who are delusional. It includes people who have Down syndrome. Now, thank goodness, there is an easy solution for people with Down syndrome that end up homeless. It's implemented in Boulder County immediately. They find out somebody with Down syndrome is homeless. They send people from the Department of Health and Human Services to come pick that person up. And then they go arrest the motherfucker who let him out on the street. caregivers of somebody with Down syndrome in Boulder County, Colorado are not treated very fucking nicely when, well, for example, kind of like the situation with all the time on the news, we're seeing how some dementia patient has wandered off somewhere. Here in Oregon, these people get a slap on the wrist. You have some 85-year-old woman who you're in charge of, and she leaves your facility and goes for a walk. You are the one who's responsible for that. Here in Oregon, it's different, but in Boulder, Colorado, yeah, you're in fucking deep shit if you got somebody with Down syndrome. Whether you're their parent or whether they're in a facility does not matter. You are grossly fucking negligent. If there's somebody with Down syndrome on the streets in Boulder, Colorado, that reflects badly on the city. They can't go, oh, he's out there because he's a drug addict. No, it's pretty obvious. People can see from visual markers that this person has Down syndrome. This isn't something where you can brush it under the rug, and this isn't something that the news isn't going to try to pick up on immediately. But if you have PTSD, you don't have a visual marker of your disability. It's not like you're in a wheelchair. If you have degenerative disc disease, you might be enjoying the last few years of your life that you're able to walk, even if it hurts. But then we're stuck with all these goddamn delusions. People who have no clue what's going on. They're going to judge you based on their opinions. Here's another one. Like I said, I was still scrolling through. I still haven't finished scrolling through. You know, when I send her this stuff, she's supposed to help me to turn it in right away. And what's she going to do instead? She's going to give me excuses. Oh, she lost her job because one of her coworkers. I guess I'm still scrolling. Sorry about that. She says, all right, next time it happens, give me a call when it happens. And I give her a call when it happens. And she types shit at me like, I'm not your mom. Wants to go out of her way to be as shitty a person as possible. This is a woman who has spent easily 100 hours on the phone. Easily. I've probably got 3/4 of that recorded. All that time on the phone, every time she just wants to do this arguing thing. She wants to put impossible processes in between, hey, we need to make the call together. This guy that I've been telling you about who continues to do this stuff, here's some more evidence of him doing it today. And then a few days later, here's some more evidence of him doing it. And then she tells me that she's gonna, but she's busy. She's got to help to turn in some rapes, more rapes in Estes Park, Colorado, and then some more rapes in Estes Park, Colorado, and then some more rapes in Estes Park, Colorado. And then she needs me to understand that nobody's helping her. Nobody's offering to help her. And I've been offering the whole time. She says that she can't get anything going because nobody's helping her that way anyway. And then I offer to help her that way. And then immediately she starts making the excuse of, oh, well, Boulder says they're going to do it. So we're working on Boulder. We're waiting on Boulder. And then she complains to me later that Boulder isn't doing anything and that they let Joshua Keith Stromberg know that he was going to be arrested. So Joshua Keith Stromberg, who apparently fucking raped her daughter and was trying to pay her daughter with drugs and alcohol for sexual favors. Yeah, this is what Shannon Alvarado, or not Shannon Alvarado, this is what Claire Jordan has been telling me. Now, her story keeps on changing about just about everything, so it's really hard to believe. It is really hard to believe her when the situation was she showed up and interrupted me actually getting somebody there who was actually going to help. Somebody who was not Claire Jordan, because Claire Jordan wasn't helping. And Claire Jordan finally said that she wanted to help. And she showed up and she wasted my time and Kara Scudder's time and made it painfully obvious she was only there for money. And when she didn't get the money, she threw a fucking tantrum and blocked me. That's what fucking happened. Now, what did she want to claim later on? Obviously, since she had ghosted me, didn't tell me where she was going, didn't tell me that there was a problem. You know, what I had to do at that point was worry that she had been a target of opportunity for someone, worry that Casey was so fucked up on drugs that he'd done something horrible to her. So the two different stories that she told me about me being blocked, the first one was that she didn't even know that I was blocked. She had no idea. Casey got into her phone and blocked all of her friends. Casey did this. It was Casey. Then later on, it was, oh, I had to do that for your protection, Sean. No, you fucking didn't. You threw a goddamn tantrum because you didn't get what you wanted right when you fucking wanted it. You wanted free shit. You didn't intend on looking at evidence and helping me turn it in. You intended on pretending that you would look at evidence so you could get paid and fucking run off with my goddamn money. I'm not stupid. I'm in a desperate situation. There's a big fucking difference. Yeah, I know these people who are offering to help me are drug addicts in most cases. I also know that going to somebody fucking sober is going to result in shit like this. Let me find it on the phone that I've been using. Like I said, multiple phones. So there's a lady who was going to help me yesterday. And, of course, people in houses or people who don't have to experience this, who don't understand the importance of looking at the evidence and turning it in with the victim. Just like with Claire Jordan, I'm having to deal with no call, no shows. So this lady typed at me, and I'm not going to read all of it. She typed at me finally last night. She messaged me, I'm super sorry, Sean. I'm okay. I've been out of service up in the mountains, helping my dad all day. I feel like a jerk as it completely slipped my mind. My dad hurt his hand and needed help with a bunch of stuff. Could we possibly reschedule for Tuesday? Now, there's something right there that is absolutely wonderful. There's several things there that are wonderful. The fact that she typed any of that is wonderful. That's all stuff that Claire Jordan didn't even make an effort to do. Now, this lady was a no-call, no-show, and I was going to do something desperate. The recordings that I have with this woman show that she's not only aware of the KKK issue, but she's also spoken up about the KKK issue. She's also not white. Now, she says it completely slipped her mind. And that, well, I have to accept that. Am I wrong? Whether this is just an excuse and she just didn't feel like it, which could be the case, but I'm not going to project that completely onto her as if that must be the truth. I do absolutely give people a chance to explain themselves, to explain their situations. You can either take that chance like this lady did, or you can do what Claire Jordan did, which is fucking inhumane, especially after the Natalie situation. Now, of course, I'm fine with rescheduling for Tuesday. The thing also that was freaking me out is that from the last time that I talked to her to the day that we were supposed to go in, there was no messages from her. Now, is she lying about having no service in the mountains? I can tell you from my personal experience in multiple locations in the mountains around here that no, you do not get any service in the mountains. But I can also tell you that 911 still works in the mountains. Yeah, you can call 911 from the campsite that I was at. I found that out from somebody else. Apparently, the police had been called to that site before, and several times since because of bonfires. People going out there and burning couches, shit like that. When I said I had to clean up a lot of garbage, bring it into town, I wasn't kidding. There was a lot of trash out there. And these are all things that you don't want to hear. It looks to me like I might have gotten a message. Let's see. Couldn't send attachment. Natalie Bollinger murder. Oh, yeah, that's because my phone is too full. It won't send anything because it's too full to send anything. It still lets me text message, and I can still send messages, send screenshots and links in the messages, but I'm too big to send across an email. Well, the cops were telling people that they couldn't take a report from somebody in a different jurisdiction. They allowed Kara Johnson Miles to slander my name from all the way in Texas, to lie about her relationship with the Bollingers, intentionally omit information. And it's not like Shannon Alvarado was making a single goddamn effort to turn that shit in. Shannon Alvarado wanted to make overwhelming excuses too. Kind of like, I'll give you an example with Claire Jordan. Claire Jordan claims that she was trained as a mandatory reporter for one of her jobs, which is not the case. That is absolutely not the case. I can tell you that 100% beyond any shadow of a doubt, because she doesn't know shit. The stuff that she does know is just barely stuff that I had to tell her. But most of it is shit that the police told her. So no, you were not trained as a mandatory reporter at any of your jobs. She wanted to claim that in order to turn in the abuse with me, these recordings of people threatening to kill me that literally just happened, and I'm calling her up because she's claiming that she's going to turn it in with me right away. She's going to look at this evidence. Well, first of all, she doesn't look at it. She doesn't try to look at it. What she'll do is eventually I've had to tell my story enough that she remembers it. Does she try to turn it in right away, or does she try to treat me like shit because she's not my mom? Does she try to help me turn it in right away, or does she say things like, oh, well, you have to get it transcripted before you can turn it in? No, you don't have to get it fucking transcripted. I got a question for you. Let's say you're married. Your husband is raping your daughter, and he's videoing himself doing it. You go to slide in your wedding tape one day, but you accidentally grab the wrong box. You slide it into the fucking machine, you turn it on, and it's your husband fucking your daughter. She's crying with her fucking face in the pillow. Are you going to tell your daughter, oh, we can't turn it in until we've gone through and paid somebody to transcript everything that was in that video that was said while your dad was fucking you? No reasonable person is going to fucking think that way. That is a goddamn excuse from a lazy piece of shit who never intended on helping. She doesn't have any friends because she's a fucking chronic liar. That's why she doesn't have any friends. She will manufacture whatever lie will try to make you friends with her so that you will talk to her because she's fucking lonely. She's lonely because she's a chronic liar. There's a difference between why she's lonely and why I'm lonely. Now, there's a difference between being lonely and being alone. Having fake friends that will lie to you repeatedly, will do hateful and vengeful things because you didn't give them what they wanted right when they wanted it. Like Claire Jordan doing the whole blocking me thing and disappearing without an explanation or anything. No, if you are mad at me about something and you're going to fucking ghost me, tell me you're mad and that's why you're ghosting me. That's good enough. If you don't do that, there is a possibility you're going to end up on my YouTube channel as a missing person. The reason you're going to end up on my YouTube channel as a missing person is because the police don't give a shit. You're aware the police don't give a shit. But instead of trying to turn in the fact that the police won't give a shit, you want to make it impossible to turn it in. You want to tell me about all these other things and all these people you know. Instead of helping me turn it in right away, you want to tell me about how you have a couple of friends that can do this and you'll get a hold of them and you just never do. Or when it comes to getting you to look at the evidence and speak up about what you've seen, instead of that, you tell me that you've got friends that do this true crime thing and you'll talk to them and get the stuff to them, and then you just never do. And here's the thing, is that none of your fucking promises ever come to fruition. Here's an example of exactly that type of situation with my dad. My dad didn't want to talk about the situation with Natalie. He didn't want to look at any evidence. Despite his promises to do so, what he wanted to do was bully me. He wanted me to do Forex.com so he could try to use my autism to make a profit because he saw Rain Man fucking 30 goddamn years ago and he lives in a fucking fantasy world. No, I'm not that kind of autistic. So anytime that, in order to get my dad to stop treating me like I was not trying to actively help myself, what he wanted to force on me is this Forex.com shit. I got a lot of stuff going on. I have just a few weeks to be able to turn in fucking evidence against the police in Natalie Bollinger's case and the Bollingers before the statute of limitations is up. And all my dad gives a shit about is using his retarded son to make a profit like Rain Man. So anytime that, you know, he wants to push this stuff on me, I have to try to show an active interest. This Forex.com thing, for example, my dad couldn't make time to help me how I needed, but he would literally talk to me for hours a day about Forex.com. At length, not stopping, not understanding that I'm not getting any of what you're fucking telling me. You're not showing me anything. You are literally just talking. That's all you're doing. You are literally making zero effort to show me how to use this shit. You're just talking. My dad wanted to bully me to do shit. Like, I got my own video games and I play my own video games because they do help me to process or to defragment from the bullshit of having to deal with you guys. But my dad, he wanted to say, oh, I watched them videos. I'm going to show you I was watching those videos by pretending that every single problem you've ever had is because of the freeze loop. And then, oh, Sean, you got to play this video game. I read that or listen to that stuff you told me to listen to. Thank goodness it was only a 2-minute video. Otherwise, he wouldn't have. It's like, and games are supposed to help you. I got this truck video game demo. I want you to play it. Sean, you need to play it. Sean, we're not going to do anything else until you played this game. Sean, you need to try playing this game. Sean, you're not making an effort. I'm like, Dad, I have video games. I have video games. I know that video games are supposed to help us to defragment. I have video games. I'm not interested in your video game. That doesn't mean that I'm not interested in video games. It doesn't mean I'm not trying to get your help. But what did I do instead? My dad is always going to get his way. He's got a position that he can fucking take away from me immediately. You will do as I say, or you will be homeless. You will do as I say, or you won't have a roof over your head. You will allow me to abuse you, and you will not record it. You will allow me to imprison you in a room and not allow you to leave that room. Now, that's what my dad thought was okay. To force me to take the help that he wants to give instead of the help that I needed. To bully and berate me as if I was a bad person because he had no fucking clue what was going on. And then for him to over and over and over treat me like I was some sort of a shitty person who wasn't making an effort after I'd spent all that time trying to do all of that Forex.com crap to show him that I'm making the fucking effort, to show him I'm making the effort. And instead of him showing me how to use this after I'd downloaded it to my computer, instead he wanted to treat me completely like shit and tell me, I told you how to do that. Don't tell me, show me, asshole. When you learned how to drive a car, did somebody tell you how to drive and then you just were able to do it? Or did somebody have to show you and you get some practice? There's a reason they require you to have experience with another driver in the vehicle with you in order to get the driver's license. They're teaching you how to drive. You don't teach somebody by just telling them to do it. I am a very good teacher because I'll sit there with you and show you how to do something. I showed Jessica Martindale how to draw eyeballs. She's pretty good at drawing eyeballs. I taught Jerry Sparks how to draw portraits. She's very good at drawing portraits. I showed Laura Nelson's son how to draw eyeballs. Drew a bunch of eyeballs in front of him. He laid down on the floor in Nettie's Treasures, which is their family store. It's a second-hand store in Chapel, Nebraska. We laid on the floor and drew pictures of eyeballs. The person that I am versus the person that you pretend me to be are not the same. Now, that the villain's crime, there were several points when we were having our interview where that man smiled inappropriately. But, of course, that was one of the occasions where Claire Jordan was going to be on the phone. And I think she was on it for at least part of it, if not the whole thing. But as always, she was a day late and a dollar short, was not prepared for it. And as always, the 1,000,001 excuses. Many of these people, as much as I want to believe their stories, the fact is that they have no proof. And if they have no proof, then I can't take it to court. If I try taking it to court, I'll be called a liar, which is why you, as the person who spoke with that officer and tried to turn it in and were lied to by that officer, you have to turn it in with me. You have no evidence because you never tried to get evidence. You didn't make the call with me because you didn't try to make the call with me. Now, if there's one or two instances and you're not able to do anything, you're, first of all, not a friend, but I can almost excuse it. But when we're talking about shit like this, with Claire Jordan, where you have to scroll that far through, and she is literally through all of that, never once made an effort to actually turn it in. She just wants to talk about it. Or she wants to talk about Joshua Keith Stromberg and him molesting her daughter and trying to pay her daughter with marijuana and other drugs and alcohol for sexual favors. And she's also making sure that her daughters aren't hearing any of this. No, I don't believe you. Now, I did contact Estes Park Police Department about that. Skylar Watson. I also let him know about the internet harassment by the Bollingers and their coordination with people in person wherever I go. No, they don't meet with these people in person. Usually they contact these people through their dummy accounts. They've been making these dummy accounts to harass me since before Natalie was killed, including a Riley Johnson profile. I used to have a friend named Riley Johnson. I contacted him to ask him, dude, we're friends. What the fuck is this about? Turned out it wasn't him. But after Natalie was killed, he literally never made a single effort to come forward about that. Kind of like Brett Roloff never made a single effort to come forward about the situation with Natalie Bollinger, about how when I went to Virginia to see Natalie, it wasn't just to see Natalie. It was to see Brett Roloff. It was to see Kimberly Witcher. It was to see a guy named Ed Simmons. It was to see Amanda DeMette. There were a lot of people that I was going to go see on that trip. It wasn't just Natalie. There was also Mahalia Jean-Pierre. Now, did these people come forward about the fact that they had come to me for help? For example, Mahalia Jean-Pierre was having to stay with a guy who she'd already paid rent to. She just had a baby, and he was expecting sexual favors in exchange for her staying there, telling her, oh, well, yeah, you paid your rent, but I don't feel it's enough anymore. This is the situation that poor people are constantly put into. Rachel was going through the same thing. I knew her from Boulder. I didn't recognize her at first, and there's a reason for that. When I met her in Boulder, she had left her super ultra Christian parents' house. She was living in Boulder, Colorado. She had most of her head shaved except for just the front part of her bangs, and they were spiked up, and sometimes they were all green, and sometimes they were all pink, and sometimes she'd paint them all a different color. So when I was going to Virginia, I was letting people know I was going to Virginia. One of the homeless folks down there gave me a telephone, told me about this girl in Virginia that needed some help, that she was stranded there, that she was in the same situation that Mahalia Jean-Pierre was in. Except Mahalia Jean-Pierre actually got into that situation later. But it was the same type of situation. Rachel had just had a baby. Now, Rachel, when she was in Boulder, was a lesbian. And her family had kicked her out because they're ultra Christians, and she's a lesbian. So when I got to Richmond, Virginia, fuck yeah, I helped that girl out. I dropped her and her son off at a McDonald's, went to where her parents lived. And after having a good heated argument with her parents and telling her parents that obviously she's not a lesbian, she's got a kid, they told me that they'd take her back if I promised never to talk to them again. Never to come to their house again. I was to go grab her and drop her and her kid off, and that was going to be the end of it. But at least they said they'd take her in. That took all of like maybe an hour. Maybe. I want to say I was in Richmond for about 2 hours overall. That includes driving all the way through it. Mahalia Jean-Pierre wasn't in Richmond anymore because her dad had gotten her an airplane ticket so that she could go to Boulder. Brett Roloff was in jail. The guy who was supposed to help me out with a job as soon as I got there, cleaning up flood damage. This is different from hurricane damage. Hurricanes can create flood damage, absolutely, but it doesn't necessarily come from a hurricane. You could have a hot water heater burst in your basement, or the water main break, or it might have been a hurricane that came through a few years earlier and people realized the state of their houses and went, I can't live in that. But when I got there, that guy, I want to say he had gotten arrested for beating on his wife. I can't remember exactly. I know that that's a common theme. So it's a situation where people want to claim that I was out to get Natalie. That's not the case. Her family was pushing her to commit suicide, and she was afraid that she was going to go back to the same druggies and the same habits, and that's exactly what she did. She went back to her own predators because they had drugs, just like Alicia did. Alicia went back to Ted Bollinger because he had methamphetamines, and he was busted with 18 grams of methamphetamines on a multi-state chase when Alicia Bollinger and Ted Bollinger weren't supposed to leave the state of Colorado. Ted Bollinger had been busted with methamphetamines twice and an illegal firearm. And you want to say that I don't have any reason or right to be afraid of these people? No, my predators have guns. Chris Stafford has a gun, has access to guns, has stolen guns from people that I know. Ted Bollinger obviously has access to guns. The police that I told on obviously have access to guns. Waylon Lolatai in Boulder, before he was let go, they had actually allowed him to remain a police officer but taken away his gun. If you have to take away a police officer's gun because of all of the reports of physical assaults, antagonization, and bullying, he shouldn't be an officer, gun or not. He should be an inmate. You goddamn right I speak out. You guys have bullied me and picked on me for over a decade now for being disabled. You guys have bullied me for over a decade now. You've harmed me for almost a full decade over Natalie Bollinger. You've assaulted me. You've threatened me. You've threatened my friends and family. You've threatened to kill their kids. You've threatened to kill my witnesses' kids and their friends and family. And you think it's okay. You think it's okay that police tell these victims that there's nothing they can do about it. They're not allowed to turn it in, or it's not illegal to threaten to kill somebody. It's not illegal. It's Fifth Amendment. Yeah, sure it is. When Rick Martindale pretended that I was threatening to cut off the head of Sheriff Taco, Mr. Ortiz, they tried charging me with making terroristic threats. Now, did I actually threaten to cut off anybody's head? No. But that's not what Rick heard because, well, Rick was doing a lot of fucking drinking at the time and smoking a lot of fucking reefer. You want to pretend that marijuana has no effect on you? Don't fucking lie to me. Marijuana affects your memory so much that you don't even recognize that you have memory issues because of your marijuana use. And then there's the alcohol use, which is way worse. I know some people who smoke pot who can retain everything that you tell them, but I haven't found a single alcoholic capable. Not even one. Rose M. Kelly was one of Natalie Bollinger's predators, along with the men that she brought into her house. Ted Bollinger was one of Natalie and Alicia Bollinger's predators. By their own words. And then there's, of course, the proof in the messages from Natalie, Alicia, the messages from Rose M. Kelly, and from Danica Garner, and from Rochelle Shelley Campbell. They knew what kind of a man Ted was. They were well aware the entire time. They kept on using their fear of Ted as an excuse not to come forward. The fact is that Alicia Bollinger is the one that needs to be dragged into court. Why is it that Alicia Bollinger intentionally lied to Maddie Boa? Why is it that she and her sister intentionally lied to their mother and to law enforcement? Why is it that those lies are allowed in court in lieu of actual evidence? Why is it that if there's a recording of me being assaulted by somebody who is claiming that it's over Natalie Bollinger, claiming that I raped, murdered, molested some underage girl, when none of those statements are true? None of them. You guys want to pretend that because I knew who Natalie was before she was 18, that it means that we were fucking. Are you insane? Let's say you're walking down the street, right? And there's some people that are walking with some youngins. Are you a pedophile because somebody walks by you with their children? Are you a rapist because somebody walked by you with their children? Let's say you're at a mall, right? And they got benches and you sit down on one of those benches. Are you at that bench because you're needing to sit down and take a break? Absolutely. Now let's say that some kid, some 15 to 17-year-old, or let's say 13 to 17-year-old comes and sits on the bench next to you. Does that make you a pedophile because somebody who is under the age of 18 came and sat next to you? What if they engage you in conversation? Well, I've seen time and again many people speaking with people who are younger, people who walk up to them and offer a conversation. And of course, it's not like they've got an ID right here on their chest that has their name and their age right there embroidered on their shirt. Do you ask for ID anytime that somebody says hello to you? The stuff that you guys want to tell me that I woulda, coulda, or shoulda done, are you going fucking completely batshit bonkers? When is the last time that you carded somebody for saying hello? When's the last time that you asked for somebody's ID because they sat next to you? When's the last time somebody pretended like it's okay to assault you because you must be a pedophile? Because somebody you got a crush on talked to them? No, 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 no. You don't get to pretend that Natalie Bollinger was an underage little girl that I was stalking just because your sick, perverted ass wanted to rape your own daughter. Or with Tim Beeson, of course. She was 14. 14 when she first started hooking up with Tim Beeson. Because he showed up at her school on a motorcycle. Well, yeah, you will listen to every word of that pedophile. You will block out his name in the threats against my life. When you post it up in these Natalie Bollinger shows, you will literally protect the predators with all of the evidence of Natalie Bollinger's drug use and heroin use, and they kept that out of the A&E thing. No, what they wanted to do is poor Natalie, she needed help because she was mentally ill. And Sean should be put in prison or fucking murdered because he's mentally ill. Are you seeing how the term mentally ill is used differently? Oh, poor me, I'm mentally ill. Oh, you sick fuck, you're mentally ill. Or then there's the cops with their, did you want to be a victim? Would you like to be a victim? Would you like to be a victim? You can't make a report for someone else. Would you like to be a victim? You can't make a report for someone else. Would you like to be a victim? The laws are supposed to be the same for everybody, and circumstance is important. These predators, including law enforcement that I was trying to turn in, of course they went out of their way to try to pretend that everything I said was a delusion. They don't want to go to fucking prison. Rose M. Kelly doesn't want to go to fucking prison. Well, guess what? She has continued to spread that slander, and I continue to be harmed and assaulted over it. She is still engaged in stalking with her friends and family, and their extended friends and family, due to this popularity of spreading lies and slander. All these Natalie Bollinger groups that go out of their way to slander my name, to go out of their way to ignore any and all evidence, to just fill in anything that they don't know or understand, instead of looking at the evidence that explains it perfectly, they'll just make something up. Oh, Sean went to stalk Natalie when she was 13 in Virginia. Are you fucking kidding me? They had a sexual relationship. That's also not true. Or he said he was infatuated. No, she typed to me that she was infatuated with me. Wanted to know if I remembered how infatuated with me that she was. I didn't know she was infatuated with me. When she showed up to hang out with Derek, who was hanging out with his mother, and I was hanging out with his mother, I usually left right away. Not always. Sometimes me and Janine were embroiled in conversation. Now, obviously, if me and Janine are embroiled in conversation, oftentimes it was arguments. I'll admit to that. She was very headstrong and very opinionated, same as me. However, how am I going to know that some little girl who has showed up and talked to Derek, how am I supposed to know that this little girl is infatuated with me when I'm literally not paying any fucking attention to her? I'm talking to Janine. No, I don't know how infatuated you were with me, Natalie. I had no clue. But you guys go out of your way to leave that stuff out of these things, don't you? The parts where Natalie said, if I go to Virginia, I'm going to need you to come visit me. The parts where she was talking about how she couldn't come see me because her ex-boyfriend was calling her up and threatening to shoot himself in the head. That was Tim Beeson, by the way. Now, there's a difference between why he wanted his life to end and why I want my life to end. He thought he had ownership of that vagina. And when it turned out that he lost his term, well, he couldn't handle it because he's a fucking drug addict. He was infatuated with her. He didn't know what love was. He knew what control was. So that lady who rescheduled for Tuesday, she did something important. This shows an understanding of autism, by the way. The first part, no, you do need to keep your appointments. That's why the piece of paper that I have been giving out to people, let me see if I have a copy here handy. It's why I give that set of instructions to people, so that they know the instructions. And I did hand it to the woman at, here it is. These instructions right here on how to turn in abuse and neglect. It says all the places that I'd already gone to by that point. I was already trying to turn in Tides of Change, Care, Helping Hands. I didn't actually know anybody at Helping Hands other than Grace by this point. It also wanted me to go to TFCC for counseling as well as for advocacy. But their advocacy is only advocacy for housing. CARE's advocacy is only advocacy for housing. Matter of fact, one of the pieces of paper I keep showing frequently is from one of the mental health specialists in Nebraska. States very clearly that I am not schizophrenic or delusional. States very clearly that I have PTSD. Now, let's take a look at the date. Oh, fuck. Sorry, I'm snagged up. Never mind. This is not important right now because it's fucking snagged. We'll go back to this. Abuse and neglect. We'll show you that at the bottom, right there, it is my name. We'll also show over here the date, 11/19/2022. It says what the crimes are. All of these crimes that these guys want to ignore and pretend aren't happening or don't exist. We want to pretend that the physical assaults don't exist. First one on here, physical abuse. Second one, sexual abuse. Third one, emotional abuse. Fourth one, financial abuse. And fifth one, neglect. Are these or are these not the crimes that I've been turning in and attempting to turn in? Now, of course, these notices of dismissal, these people had a position of power. It was not about making sure that the public was safe. It was a matter of retaining their positions rather than going to prison. Here it is. I'm going to show you one of the words that's on here. It's actually the first word, advocacy. This one's from Nebraska. And all of these advocacy agencies, when it came time to doing their jobs for a disabled victim, well, they only advocate for housing all of a sudden. Penny Cooper, all she wanted to focus on was housing, housing, housing. When she knew that I wasn't going to get housing, knew that I couldn't get housing because I didn't have anyone who was a friend or family member who actually gave a shit. Penny Cooper was a horrible excuse for a human being. She's just as bad as Jen Beebe. When they say that these people are supposed to advocate for us, and you civilians in houses who have never had to go through this, or these people advocate for you because you're in a goddamn house and you think that they're going to do this for everybody. No, they make the money to pay. Well, for example, those of you in houses who are getting money from CARE to pay for your heating and electric bills, and that's coming from CARE, the way that they get that money is by having homeless people come in, homeless victims come in, writing down that those homeless victims are on drugs because it makes them extra money. Then they have them fill out one of these pieces of paper, an intake form. And every time you fill out an intake form, they make money. This is the last one that I turned in, I believe. 9/29/2025. Nope, it's not. There's a bunch more in here. But this one right here, it's an intake form, and they want to know how much you made and where it's going and who gave it to you and so on and so forth. And every time you go in, they want you to fill one of these out. Now, they don't help you to actually get housing. You're not going to get actual housing unless you're on drugs and in their drug programs that cost a lot more money. And meanwhile, these drug programs aren't helping because the people who are going to these drug programs with the promise of getting help with their disability, well, they're not getting help with that disability. Many of the people in these drug programs are not on drugs. The only reason they're going to these drug programs and the only reason that they're signing these pieces of paper is to get help. To get help stopping abuse. Obviously, to get some help getting into housing for many of them. But the fact is that they're not getting the housing. Instead, they are being treated like like they're a drug addict. Come back next month. Come back next month. Come back next month. Every month. I was even told by people at TFCC that they couldn't do anything as far as adult protective services go until I'd gone to therapy there for at least 6 months. So it's okay to assault me until I've been going through this for 6 months. It's okay for people to kick the shit out of my car and throw rocks through my window because I haven't been going for a full 6 months. You want to tell me these services are free, but I have to keep and maintain a vehicle in order to go to these places. And then there's the fact that they send me around in circles, each one of them claiming that they're advocates. See, advocacy right there. Each and every one of them saying that they're advocates. Each and every one of them telling me that they only advocate for housing. Over and over again. We only advocate for housing. When you guys tell me to go to these advocates, that it's their job, you're missing the point again. You're showing the same bias that they are. You've assumed that somebody else is going to give a shit when you don't. Many of these people, like Kayla Trujillo, takes $100 round trip in a Honda Civic to go from Chapel, Nebraska to Longmont, Colorado, or to Loveland, Colorado, or to Denver, Colorado. Maybe a little over $100 round trip, depending on what part of Denver. She sets it up, tells me that when we get there, or when I get there, she's going to help me finally. And I get there, and then she's on her fucking phone playing games all day on her phone. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, are we going to go or not? I know that you're not going to look at the evidence. We don't have time, but we do need to try to turn this in. She treated me horribly. Wanted to say, well, don't you have somebody else you can ask? Or another one that she wanted to say during another situation was, well, really, it doesn't matter. It's any excuse will do. Oh, Sean, I can't turn in an assault that literally just happened. I can't turn in that assault with you right away because we need to get a hold of somebody who can type out all the transcripting. No, we don't need to do that. We need to turn in the fact that it fucking happened, and we need to do that now. There's probably 100 crimes just on that one phone that I was able to send evidence. Not this one. This one. There's probably 100 different crimes that were committed against me that are recorded. The actual crimes themselves that I sent to Claire just in that one phone from July 7th of 2024 or July 7th of 2023 to May 19th of 2024. So one of the things also to keep note of is that during that time, I did not send her every single time that it happened because she wasn't doing anything. She kept on promising, and about 8 other people were busy also promising and not keeping their words. And all of them, I invested the time into sending them evidence, trying to show them evidence. Most of these peoples and places, especially government agencies, wanted to refuse to give me an email address to send them evidence to. Such as Kylie at TFCC, the very same TFCC investigator who wanted to claim that she actually didn't have any problem with if I had threatened to kill her, that she understands the frustration, but also she admitted outright that she never saw or heard any evidence that it was actually true. She got an anonymous call from somebody. Now, if you guys pay attention and you look at the videos from when that was happening, it's pretty obvious that I am giving examples of what I'm having to go through. It is pretty obvious that I'm following instructions. Now, what had happened is I was sending all of the evidence that Judge Mary Garrick Trevino was forcing me to go to TFCC for. I'd already tried. So she wants to send me to TFCC to send all of this evidence. Meanwhile, she's doing this because of lies and slander by John Holland, including the lie that Natalie Bollinger is a delusion and that people harassing me and assaulting me over those lies and slander are apparently delusions. Now, Kylie, the TFCC investigator, admitted outright that she was aware that Natalie wasn't a delusion years ago. And they wanted to use this supposed threat against her life as an excuse to harm me in jail repeatedly, as an excuse to harm me in court repeatedly. Meanwhile, talking to her, it's obvious that it doesn't exist. It was a figment of their imagination. It was something that they manufactured because they knew that I was trying to turn them in. They knew that I was trying to turn them in for Medicare and Medicaid fraud, for fleecing the American public, for spending literally hundreds of thousands of dollars to victimize victims in Tillamook County. How much did it cost for all of those mental health forensics evaluators, the public pretenders, their investigators, the prosecutors, the police, the judge, the amount of time that I was locked up, and the people who were supposed to be babysitting me in jail? How much money did all of that cost the taxpayers of Tillamook County? How many of that was subsidized with state taxes or federal taxes for these people to abuse their position of power, to try to shut down their victim, to try to get mental health peoples and hospitals to commit felonies on their behalf, attempting to force others to call me schizophrenic or delusional. It's unsafe for me to go to the hospital because of lies that were told by police officers to the hospital workers and lies that were told by Carly at the hospital. Lies that resulted in multiple people at the hospital being hostile with me. I also have the papers as far as what my rights are on a civil hold, which is what they wanted to put me on. They didn't observe any of those rights. They don't have to because they know that the cops aren't going to do a goddamn thing if the people at the hospital commit felonies. Especially if those people at the hospital are committing felonies for the cops so the cops don't get in trouble. Meanwhile, not one goddamn person who has claimed to care about me has actually bothered to sit down and take a look at the evidence because they're a good fucking person, or help to turn it in because they're a good fucking person. No, I'm having to pay drug addicts $20 an hour because there's no sober fucking person who's going to do anything other than make excuses. There is no person in a house who's actually going to show up when they say that they will. I don't want to rely on drug addicts. I really don't. And yesterday, when I had that appointment set up, I didn't want to hire a drug addict to carry my stuff. I didn't want to hire a homeless person to carry my stuff even. Because that homeless person is automatically assumed by most people in Tillamook to be on drugs just because they're homeless. And the color of that person's skin could have created more issues for me. However, there was somebody who was sober who was offering to help me. The reason that I was hiring that homeless person to carry that stuff for me that I can't carry because of my disabilities, the reason that I paid that man $20 an hour to help me to carry that stuff is because somebody who was sober was, well, a no-call, no-show, actually. She didn't show up. And I get the apology. I'm thankful for the apology, but that's also part of the circumstance. It's not that I didn't make the effort. It's that I could not safely make the effort because the sober person who was going to help didn't show up. I'm told, well, you shouldn't surround yourself with those kind of people. You shouldn't surround yourself with those kind of people. With all due respect, drug addicts and immigrants have done more for me than all of the people that I've known in my lifetime previous to this situation. Previous to this, there was a lot of stuff I was able to do for myself. I wasn't needy. There's been quite a few people who promised to help me, and then their help was hijacked by stupid shit. Like Brandon Ratner had 6 different women that he wanted to pursue. Because every time that one of these things went south, because he didn't show up, he wanted to tell me about some girl and how I should understand because this could be the one. Well, no, dude. You think she could be the one, and then she manipulates you into moving her and her mom to Texas, and then she doesn't want anything to do with you, and then you want to bitch at me about that shit. Yeah, she wasn't the one, dude. She wanted the use of your pickup truck and your muscles. She wanted the use of your funds, just like Jamie Curtis, when the men in her life bailed her out of her stupid decision to stick around with James Payton, who was beating on her and her son. A bunch of men helped her out for her to pretend that she did it all herself. No, she didn't. If it hadn't been for all the men who contributed financially, contributed with signatures so that she could rent a place, contributed with manual labor, contributed by driving hundreds of miles and helping to pay for the U-Haul, God damn. There was at least 3 guys from her work who came to help with that. They didn't stick around long, but they did show up. When Jamie wanted to create a situation where she was claiming that she was afraid of James because she was in the same town and afraid that James would come and find her, and that we were going to talk to each other once a week so that I knew that James hadn't done something to her. She was also talking to a woman named Nova at the time. Same agreement. She was going to call Nova at least once a week to let Nova Wilmoth know that James hadn't gotten a hold of him or hadn't killed him or whatever the case may have been that was in Jamie's delusional mind. So Jamie wanted to do the slandering people's names, like, for example, claiming that James Payton had raped Jackie McKenzie, and it turned out that wasn't true. But at the time that she said it, she was angry with James, so that magically justifies it, right? So then when she started dating James, imagine how fucked up that got me in the head. Like, all right, there's this dude that she's claiming raped her best friend, and now she's dating him? Yeah, that's kind of fucking creepy. So, while Jamie was telling me that she was afraid that James would come find her, the recordings with James show that he was dating her again at that point. When she was pretending that she was afraid that James would come and find her and hurt her and her son again, according to James, they were dating again already at that point. Meanwhile, she was also dating a guy named Todd Harmon. So she was dating two different people. Natalie did the same shit. These are fucking players. That's what they do. Jamie was fond of telling me about how all these other guys were just after her vagina, but not to do anything because she still needed them for stuff. She still needed Uncle Ronnie to help turn in fucking her grandma for her grandpa for molesting her. She still needed fucking this guy because he was helping to contribute with money. She still needed Todd because he was helping to pay part of her bills. All these guys that she was telling me, hey, you're different than all these guys. You're not like them. I actually care about you. I probably like you more than I should, and so on and so forth. And, all these other guys are different than you. Well, she was telling them all the same thing. Oh, don't confront him about it. Don't talk to him about it, and so on and so forth. What the fuck? When she realized that, unlike these other guys, she couldn't use her vagina to manipulate me, she started using her son Zyler to manipulate me. Now, those of you who want to pretend that I'm a bad person for bringing up his name or for stating his name, well, there's a very good reason for it. He's a witness to multiple situations from when he was underage and now that he's an adult as well. The situation with James, the situation with Jamie going back. While James is saying, oh, I was dating her at the time, and Jamie's telling me that she's scared of him. Kind of like when Natalie was getting a hold of me, telling me that her ex-boyfriend was calling her and threatening to shoot himself in the head. But what did he say in Sword and Scale want to play? Oh, apparently Tim Beeston was dating Natalie at the time. Well, if he was dating her at the time and she was saying those things about him, obviously they weren't dating. It was a delusion. Now with Jamie, that's far different. I absolutely believe that Jamie was dating James while she was playing victim. Later on, when I had to expose James because she hadn't called me for 2 weeks, and as a homeless person, the cops aren't going to fucking listen to you. They don't care. I've shown this time and again. We are limited in our options to expose predators when you let us know that your life is in danger, okay? She played it like her life was in danger from James Payton. And so when I exposed it on the internet, because nobody else would listen, then she gets a hold of me. Then she's angry with me. This is around the time that Natalie died. It was actually right before Natalie died, and I had to expose Tim Beeson, Ted Bollinger, and James Payton all at the same time, as well as turning in Kenneth Wilson and Leatha Plunkett, who I was staying with, that were drug addicts and drug dealers and stealing my disability money. It was a very, very complicated situation. Natalie's own words do not match the words of my predators. Natalie's words do not match the words of Ted Bollinger. Natalie's words do not match the words of Alicia Bollinger. Natalie's words do not match the words of Maddie Boa. They don't match the words of Rose M. Kelly. Natalie's words do not match up with Tim Beeson's lies. Now, these people in her life bullied her into lying, bullied her into slandering my name, gave her drugs and tried to fucking make her all sorts of paranoid while they're fucking with me. Well, Tim Beeson is calling me up and accusing me of being a pedophile and a rapist, telling me that he's going to kill Jamie and her son Zyler, although he couldn't pronounce Zyler's name. Sending me messages with fake accounts, pretending to be people that I know. Eventually, he sent something in his own account, in his own name. And in the one in his own name, where he verified, claimed that he had read every message between myself and Natalie Bollinger. Prove it. I want to see them. Show me what messages and what days they were sent. We'll see whose phone it fucking belonged to. Let's see whose phone it was registered to. Let's see who actually owned that phone. See, this is a situation where Natalie Bollinger didn't care about the consequences of her lies. She was embarrassed. That's not my fault. I don't get embarrassed. I am incapable of getting embarrassed. You cannot embarrass me. You can do shameful things, and I'll admit that they were shameful things that you did, but I'm not embarrassed because you did them. I didn't do them. How many threats did I have to take from the Bollinger family and their friends before I ever threatened anyone back? How many assaults had I received before Natalie died just for trying to go see my friends and family? How many of those predators wanted to pretend that I had raped 2 little girls in Virginia? How many people wanted that to be their excuse? Meanwhile, Natalie and Alicia Bollinger literally never accused me of any such thing. They did accuse their dad. They did accuse Tim Beeson. The reason that it's not okay to help women today, the reason that men aren't helping you move out of your shitty situation, the reason that men aren't changing your tires, is because we're literally being murdered over these things. You know, getting to watch a YouTube clip about a woman who, well, she was trying to change a tire, didn't know what the fuck she was doing. So some guy and his girlfriend pulled over to offer to help. And that woman fucking shot him dead. Why don't we offer to change your fucking tire? I have stayed on the side of the road for days because I didn't have a spare tire because my spare tire just popped. And you want to complain that a man won't stop in the first 30 minutes. Well, if we do stop, we got to worry that you're going to fucking shoot us because you're fucking deranged. You're a goddamn lunatic. You've been taught that because you're a woman, you're not responsible for anything. It's all men's fault. If you lie, it's men's fault. If you paint on your makeup, that's men's fault. No, that's you. That is 100% you. Let me tell you, between the 3 Martindale girls, there's only one of those Martindale girls I ever asked out. I never asked out Jackie. And yes, she was very pretty. She also painted on makeup. Then there's Justine, and she's naturally pretty. Naturally very pretty. But she also, from time to time, puts on makeup, and so does Jessica from time to time. But Jessica had the best personality. Until she graduated from high school, I'd never seen her wear makeup. The thing that I liked about Jessica was that she was real. She wasn't painting on a bunch of makeup trying to fucking attract a mate. And then telling men that it's their fault that she puts it on. No, she didn't want to put on makeup, so she didn't. And that's fine. That should be fine. It should also be fine for me to be friends with her. It should also be fine for me to be attracted to her, even if she's not attracted back. That's something that I am capable of understanding. Now, all these folks who want to pretend that I couldn't take no for an answer, I can give you a list of every woman I ever asked out, and you can ask every single one of those women, did I ever ask you out more than once? Did I ever ask Jamie out more than once? No, and she was different because she was supposed to be trying to teach me about women so that I don't end up getting completely fucked in situations like that in the future. But that's not how she took it. I also asked out Caroline Coffey. Caroline said yes. It was over the phone. Jamie Curtis and Chris Stegeman had encouraged me to call her up and ask her out, insisting that she liked me too. Well, a month later, Chris Stegeman and Caroline Coffey came to see me, and Caroline and Chris let me make an idiot out of myself for 5 minutes straight because I was super excited that Caroline was there and that she had said yes to going out on a date. We'd finally get to go out on a date. And I'd saved up some money to go out on a date, which wasn't easy to do. I was working for Rick Martindale at the time. And that's when Chris and Caroline let me know that they were going out. And Jamie had no clue. She thought she was still going out with Chris Stegeman. But no, Chris Stegeman had ditched her for her best friend. And that's something that Jamie has brought up many times. Natalie was protecting her predators. Jamie was protecting her predators. Now, the issue in both of these situations was similar. With Natalie, her protecting her predators resulted in her predators being harmful to me. With Jamie, her going back to her predators resulted in her predators beating on her and her son. And later on, when she was wanting to pull the, oh, I'm afraid of James, when she was dating him again, and then she wanted to claim that he found out where she lived because of me, that I had given her his address, given him her address. Any excuse, anything that she could make up to try to make me feel like a bad person, just like when she got busted again cheating on James because she'd gone back to him again. She wanted to lie to me again, pretend that her and James weren't dating. She was still dating Todd Harmon. When I stated in one of my videos that I like Jamie's new boyfriend more than I like James. James got a hold of Jamie to start threatening her, and she got a hold of me to start threatening me. And she tried to play it off like she's not supposed to be dating that person. Well, I didn't say Todd Harmon's name. Literally any excuse, anything that she could play off. And Jamie did that frequently. If Jamie doesn't get what she wants, she's going to yell at you and make you feel like you're a bad person because she fucking lied to you repeatedly and was playing fucking head games. And it's all your fault because her head games resulted in something other than what she was hoping for. If you're going to tell me you're afraid that James Payton is going to fucking harm you and your son because you're in the same town and that we're supposed to be in contact with each other just in case, and then for 2 weeks straight, you fucking ghost me. Yeah, I'm going to be fucking scared shitless. Right before Natalie was killed, I was scared shitless that James Payton had killed Jamie Curtis. Okay? This is a severely fucked up situation. I was already well aware of the way that women will manipulate men by that point. Everything that Natalie decided that she was going to pull after the fact, I'd already had to deal with most of that shit from Jamie. There's also the fact that Natalie stole my suicide. I've been begging somebody to shoot me for over a year because of the abuse. You guys don't know what it's like to be a victim of sexual assault repeatedly growing up, only to help somebody who's a supposed victim of sexual assault and be treated like you're some sort of a sexual predator for helping that person out. I don't need your excuses.